It's always difficult for a large group of people, even a small group for that matter, to agree on any one thing. I think it's safe to bet most will agree on the two topics that everyone should avoid in conversation: politics and religion. Parents give that advice to their children when going on first dates or meeting important people. We remind ourselves of this advice when going maybe to family parties, and most people get uncomfortable rather quickly when either politics or religion come up in large groups. This uncomfortableness about topics that we can easily get passionate about is not a new feeling. Jesus warns his disciples in our gospel that this uncomfortableness will be felt. And if it gets ugly, get out. This is solid advice from our King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But he gives more important advice for beginning those conversations. The Prince of Peace tells the disciples, when they enter a home for the first time, say, "Peace to this household." Remember, Jesus wasn't sending out disciples to talk about the weather or to start bingo. Jesus sent out these 72 disciples to preach the gospel, to tell everyone who would listen that they need to turn away from sin and be faithful to the law of love, to love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. This is what the disciples were being sent out to proclaim, regardless of how uncomfortable they felt. But remember how Jesus told them to begin the conversation. Peace to this household. The disciples were not being trained to go in guns blazing, holy water in hand to baptize the pagans, nor with scrolls of the Torah to shove down anyone's throat. They were sent to bring peace first, and then to speak the truth. Jesus warns them, and he still warns us today, that we're being sent as lambs among wolves. Today's society is not that different from the time of Jesus. People who desired this world more than the next were just as hostile then as they are now. People were equally selfish then as they are now, desiring only what they think will make them happy. People care just as much now as back then about objective truth. Satan was just as busy then as he is now, confusing people and destroying lives. It was Satan who muddied the waters and had the Messiah killed on the cross. Now, Satan is smart, but he's not that smart. The dummy forgot that the Son of Man would rise on the last day. So Jesus sends us as lambs among wolves. Those wolves are very much present today, and we've seen many of them on television and the internet, especially these last 2 weeks, threatening the church, politicians, even our system of government. One wolf in particular, State Senator Sara Feigenholtz of our beloved state, came against us lambs by publishing an offensive political cartoon this past week. It's a bishop dressed in liturgical robes, holding a gun to the head of a pregnant Statue of Liberty. This anti-Catholic cartoon and attack on the church and us, the church, is only one of many that I've seen since the Dobbs versus Jackson ruling came out. I'm grateful to Cardinal Supich for his response to the state senator's anti-Catholic behavior which you can read on the Archdiocese website and on our Facebook page, the cardinal did exactly what Jesus asks us to do, rather tells us to do, in our gospel, to kick off the dust from ourselves and to move on. Friends, as intentional disciples of Jesus, we need to go out among the wolves and continue preaching the truth. We cannot be afraid of the attacks or the hate speech used by those who openly reject truth and only seek their own self-interests. We cannot let the fear of darkness stop us from bringing out the light of Christ within us. We cannot stoop to the level of State Senator Feigenholtz and other bitter, angry people who only care about wealth, pleasure, power, and honor. We must be people of peace, who preach the good news that Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. We must enter uncomfortable conversations with peace on our hearts and minds as we preach and practice the truth, who is Jesus Christ.